welcome to the Pink Ink Classroom. Come on in and let's get started. Today we are going to learn how to add a gingham pattern to our stamped images. I got my gingham on here today to inspire me. This is an example of a gingham pattern on a diagonal. Here's an example of one that's done on the square. Here's one where just a little tiny bit of gingham is added to the pattern, but it really enhances the artwork here, just that small bit. And here's one where the gingham actually follows the curve of the paper here, which is another technique that can make it look a little more realistic if you follow the direction it's supposed to go. So these are the things we're going to be learning today. I have a few more examples. This is one of my favorite techniques, so I have lots of show and tell here today. Here's two examples of a pattern on the square and a pattern on a diagonal that actually use two colors in the gingham. And here's the same stamp done in colorways for school colors, and here's one that's sort of a patriotic theme. So you can change the stamp images a lot by adding this technique. I love it on any kind of a baby stamp. It's a really charming way to make the stamps a lot more fun. And on this one, I've got it going in a couple of different directions. And here again, the checks are following the direction of the hood on this buggy. So those are my examples. And now we're going to begin by learning how to draw our own pattern. We're going to show two different directions that the squares can go, diagonal and on the square. And I'm going to draw them on this blank sheet with my old stylus tool. The first thing I want to do is get out that kitchen wax paper and rub both of the squares to make sure the stylus glides over the paper surface nice and easily. When you start to do the diagonal one, you want to set it up on an x-axis. That means going from this corner to this corner and this corner to this corner. And I'm going to do that right now. So I'm just going to freehand this one. Get my X going here. And now you want to make your parallel lines that are lined up with each of these axes on the X. So I'm going to go across and pull them out from the middle to the corner this way. And then go from the center up to the top left corner, like so. Now I'm going to add add lines next to the axis, going in the opposite direction. These are spaced about 1/4 of an inch apart so you can see them nice and big. They don't have to be that large. And now I'm going to do one on the square, and this I like to just kind of lay them vertically first. It's basically a stripe pattern. And then what you can do is rotate it 90 degrees and do the same vertical motion perpendicularly. Okay, now we're going to see what this looks like by picking a fairly dark color, and I'm going to start filling in every other stripe. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you'll see enough here to get the idea. So I'm basically just having my pencil motion follow along the edge of the depressed lines. And you want to do every other one to create a gingham. If you did every other square, you'd end up with a check, which is fine, but that's not what we're working on here today. So this is all about gingham. So let's do these three, and then I'm going to turn and go across in the opposite direction. And you can see I'm setting up a nice diagonal pattern here. And as the bands crisscross each other, where they cross, it becomes a little bit darker because you're putting two layers of color over that square. Now what you can do to kind of make it a little more zippy is to add yet a third layer of color over those squares that overlap. That just emphasizes the gingham pattern a little bit more. Okay, now on this one, I'm going to teach you a little trick. If you're having a little trouble seeing the white lines, what you can do is lay down a layer of soft pastel color first. Now this is going to make the gingham look a little bit different because it's adding some more color to it. But if you're really struggling to see the white lines, this is a way for them to be a little bit more visible. So I'm filling in a little bit of a soft pink here, and then I'm going to go back with my magenta, and I'm going to pick out those bands. And I can see them a little bit more now that the color's been emphasized with that background going down first. And again, we'll do about 3 rows here just so you get the idea. And I always like to rotate the drawing when I'm working on it, because if I'm feeling comfortable coloring in this direction, I just kind of want to keep going the same way. So I'm turning it 90 degrees and continuing to color vertically. And you can see it's starting to emerge. Now make sure you color over that crisscross part so you get the different color depth as you're going. Don't want to skip that. And then again, I'm going to go back and just kind of pick out those overlapping squares to really emphasize the weave is what it is, because you have threads going in one direction and another on a traditional gingham. When they cross each other, it's darker, just like on my shirt. So that's our little demo. Now we're going to do a couple of finished pieces of artwork to see what it looks like when we actually put it on a stamp. Okay, so now we're going to add gingham to these 3 flower pots. And again, I'm putting a little bit of wax paper down first. I'm going to do these on a diagonal. So again, I'm drawing my X first to set up the axis, and then adding lines on either side. Looks like I've got about 5 lines going in each direction on this one. And one more. And I'm trying to make them on a nice 90-degree angle, otherwise they end up looking like diamonds. Now for this one, I'm going to do that pastel technique first, because I have 3 different colored pots, and you'll see how that works in each example. So I'm putting down some soft blue on this guy, and then some soft yellow on this one. And as you can see, it's just enough to reveal where those lines are. And pink on the last. Okay, and now we're going to go back and add our darker colors. So I'm going to use a medium blue here, and I'm picking out every other one. And what I'm going to do on this one, just to give it a little more oomph, is to use a third blue that's even a little bit darker for those crossed areas. So I'm going to go back with this china blue and just give each of these a little bit more emphasis. And if you miss a little spot here and there, you can always go back and kind of touch it up. And now we'll move on to the yellow. So this is a yellowed orange that I'm using for the bands. And again, I'm turning it a little bit as I work, just to make it easy on myself. and then I'm going to go back and really add some darker orange here to beef this up, because when you're working with yellow, sometimes it needs a little help. It's pretty pale. And then the last one is a lovely traditional pink to match my flowers. I'm turning it. So I've got about 3 going in each direction, and then again re-emphasizing the crisscrosses with a nice magenta. And you can see how this Gingham technique really adds a lot to the drawing when you take the time to add those little patterns. We're going to do one more here. She's a favorite of mine. This is Miss Kitty Kenz, and it's always fun to color her dress in lots of different ways. So I am going to add this one I'm going to do straight on, so it's a gingham on the square to her pinafore, and these little scallops actually work really well as a guideline for where to set up your check lines. And I'm going to turn it. And this, I'm making this line go along a little bit of a curve just to follow the kind of the scoop of her dress hem. And just one across. This is going to be kind of a big plaid here, a big gingham. So I'm going to start. This one I'm not doing the extra. I'm going to leave this one a soft pink. So we're going to catch every other line here. Oops, make sure you get above there too. And then pick out a couple of these up above. Cross it. Ooh, I picked up something there. Probably from the pencil sharpener. Be careful with that. And just a little bit of darker pink here. It's the same pink I used on her skirt to help us see that checkerboard a little bit more. And if your eyes are sharp, you can probably spot that I used the stylus to make some little stripes in her stockings as well. It's a great little tool. Really fun. So there she is in her little gingham pinafore. And that's how you create gingham.